Hello everyone, this is the Grotesque Dino, and today I'm going to be doing a review on Broadway Limited's Paragon 3 Baldwin RF-16 Sharknose diesels. First of all, these are my favorite diesels that have been ever made, especially on American railroads, probably in the world too. The reason why is they're not just because they're unique or that they're different than your EMDs and your Alcos or your Fairbanks Morris on top of that. I feel like these are really the underdogs of the first gen diesels. They were also one of Baldwin's last hurrahs to try and make diesel a success under their name. The RF-16s, I don't know what their iteration is. I don't know exactly all the history. I did a little bit of history earlier. These are in an earlier video. These are like a 1950s diesel and on. There's only two of them left, owned by some guy who owns a warehouse somewhere in I don't know if it's Wisconsin or Michigan or something like that. But he has the last two that were on the D&H up until the mid 80s, and it's amazing that only two survived during the mid 80s. I mean, it was a long time. They served pretty much for 30 years, but only two were left. There were only I don't know, a couple hundred or something that these existed, maybe like 500 or so. I don't know exactly the numbers, but they made mainly A units and some amount of number of B units. Pennsylvania had a lot. They had the bulk of the Baldwin Sharks, and I have a feeling that the Pennsylvania did really like these. These are pretty tough diesels. They made 1,600 horsepower, pretty much around the same horsepower as the FA1s and FA2s. I think it's FA2s that they pretty much matched. These are primarily used during freight service, although you can use them for passenger. I hope that when Broadway makes the Paragon 4 run, I want to get the AB set of the Tuscan one for a passenger run in a passenger fleet for Pennsylvania. I also would like to get the single stripe too, and maybe do an ABA set, because these are really nice diesels. I really like these diesels that Broadway made. I don't think there's any other RF-16 made by any of the other companies, especially Bachmann made some, and I don't know who else made them. I'm not 100% sure, but I know somebody else did make them in HO that's not brass, I think. But you can get the brass ones, although you have to pay a pretty penny for them. I mean, these are plastic models, but even as plastic models, these are really nice diesels. I got two AB sets. Both of them are numbered 2016. I mean, probably some people are wondering, why did you get two of the same thing? Well, the price of these were like $250 at the time when I got them on eBay from a store. So I was like, well, that's the cheapest I can get them. I don't want to buy just a different one for different road number for more expensive price, although that could happen. These really run an ABBA set anyway, so it doesn't really bother me. And maybe some people might be bothered, like, you got two of the same thing, what's the point? Well, they run in a set of an ABBA set, so that's all they're really going to use. I mean, unless I have one of them in the shops and I just have an AB set pulling a freight train. But I have the other Shark with numbered 2017 or 2017 as an address, so that they can be mewed together instead of just having them all as one diesel. I don't know how exactly to make them do that, but I just have them as different numbers for right now. Anyway, the detail on these RF-16s are really nice. I really like the train phone wiring detail. I like the Pennsylvania 5 stripe on the side. The trucks look nice, although the axles don't spin, which is fine. I don't really mind. Grab irons, pretty nice. Hand railings, steps. I heard Broadway Limited's Sharks got the nose right compared to all the other manufacturers. I really like the front end of these diesels. It's one of the reasons why I like them. And there you go, you got that slanted front end that makes it look like a Sharknose, although it's not as steep as a real Shark's, but it does have that look. And there's an invisible line that makes it look like it has like this side profile of a shark's shape of the nose. I really like that aviator goggle looking what would you call it? Front window glass panels, the frames. And they got an interesting look. The doors are inset in a bit, and then they have like this slanted, angled look to them as you get close to the top. I like the grille details. You can those are definitely see-through, and then the top grille is somewhat see-through. I don't know about these side grills. Maybe some molded on stuff. The exhaust is molded on. Got some dust and particles and whatnot on it. And it's got front headlight. There's some crew figures that are inside, which is, I think, great. I heard some of the other details, especially the Paragon 3 F3s, don't have them, which I think is interesting. Like, how can you not... I mean, Broadway's been making a lot of models that already have crew figures in it. Why couldn't they just, I don't know, put a few cents into just putting the crew figures inside those diesels? But, I don't know. Yeah, maybe they forgot, which I think is kind of dumb, but, then you have to open it and then you have to somehow put crew in there. I'm not sure what motor they have, what kind of motor they have. Some people would probably say it's a 3-pole motor. I don't really want to unscrew it and open up right now because I heard these are a little bit tedious to open up. It's pretty much similar to when I did my review for the TGV, except they're screws, so it's not a complete pain in the butt. And I can just take the shell off, but I have to slide it forward and then angle it up and away. For some reason, when it comes to the Baldwin Sharks, they had this whole slot and hook thing with the AB sets. I don't know why they did that. I mean, they come with KD couplers, or they come with their own couplers. I'm not sure if they're really KD, but they come with their own couplers they can install. But I heard to install those couplers, it's kind of tedious if it focuses. Got to unscrew the back end too, and then you got to somehow get it in there. I heard it's a little bit tricky to get the coupler in right, especially on to replace them with couplers. I don't know why they did it with this, but that's okay. Usually you could get just a lone A unit if you wanted to. Although it is weird to have, I don't know. I just don't get it because I don't know if anybody else has, like, I guess the F3s, but the F3s, they do the same. They don't have this, so I don't understand what Broadway was doing with this. I guess so. It's because, these diesels don't really run with other units. I mean, in real life, they didn't. If you wanted to mew the Baldwin Sharks, they had on their catalog, you have to order like the adaptable mewing thing or device so that it can mew with other brands, I guess. And initially they didn't have that, so it can only mew with other sharks, which probably. I mean, that was the only Don Goof thing that the Baldwin did with this shark, and why it didn't become more successful is because they didn't have it already on there in the design. And instead, later it's like, oh, but it's a separate piece that to order separately. It's like features on a car that you have nowadays. Like, oh, you want the whole thing, or you gotta pay more price. It's like, Baldwin, you could have made this more successful if you just had a full package right from the start instead of oh, well, if you want to mew with other type of diesel units, you have to buy this extra. It's like, okay. It's kind of dumb. And that's why Baldwin no longer exists. If they didn't screw up with that marketing. I'm pretty sure Baldwin might have stayed around a bit longer and maybe made some more RF-16s. But you can try as you can, and even if you made your last hurrah a good one, sometimes it's just not enough. And in that case, that's what happened to these. The B units, these are dummies. They're both dummies. See-through grill, which is really cool. I like that. And there is some fan detail if it focuses. They're there. It's just hard to see. And there's the trucks. Same detail as the front ones. These hoses on or these connecting wiring, whatever they are, if it focuses. I don't know why. But if you see them, there you go. You can probably see them now. Those tend to hang down a bit. And if you want to shorten those, you can clip them, I guess, or pull them out. But they can hang on the side along the track. So if you have anything that's high, really close to the railroad tracks, this will probably trip over and might derail. Which I don't think anybody really has stuff close to the tracks. There is no spring, what's it called? Oh my gosh. My terms are not really here right now. The intermediate part doesn't really have that. So instead, I guess they have this system where it's just a platform and a really close coupler so that you're kind of exposed if you're working with these diesels. I'm pretty sure in real life they actually had my mind's blanking with that terminology for that piece, but I'm going to call it the intermediate piece, so that people are protected from the elements when they cross between the engines and the cars. So they don't have these diesels. I mean, if you want to, you can. These are freight diesels, although if I want to get like the Tuscan one, which is going to be hard until Broadway announces the Paragon 4 version, which I'll probably get. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I really love these diesels. I think I'm going to have more of these diesels than like any other like diesel type in my fleet, especially EMD, even though EMD is more accurate to have mostly. I guess the major issue, if you want to improve this, is that even on wide curves, the gap between B units, if you're going to do it like this, ABBA, you might want to get a longer head Katy coupler installed on one of these cars so that they don't lift each other or something, so they could cause a possible derailment. I don't know when I'm going to get more Katy couplers for that. Although the regular hook and pinion thing that they have usually for steam engines is fine with the A and B units. If you want to run along with the A units, even though you have B units along with the set, I mean, you gotta have to take it apart and still get those couplers installed on there instead of the hook thing. And the diesels have a decent amount of weight to them. However, if your cars are weighted down and they're like those modern plastic hybrid Maxi-Well cars that Walther makes or something, I don't know, for some reason when I tried to get this train to pull them at my club, they didn't like the weight. They had even though I had an ABBA format, 2 powered units. Sorry if they get to see me recouple it. They didn't like it. They were pretty much struggling. And those cars were weighted down too, so maybe, I don't know if it was the diesels, or I'm pretty sure it's the diesels that can't handle a certain amount of strength. But when they pull these box cars by Bowser, I mean, well, these cars are fairly light. They're not too light, but they're fairly light. And the wheels are really good at free rolling. They don't have a problem. They don't have a problem pulling these box cars, especially with the caboose at the end. Although I'm not sure exactly how strong these 2 A units can pull, these 2 powered units. I mean, yeah, those 2 B units act as like, 2 freight cars pretty much, but they're pretty much really not that gonna cause anything. I mean, a decent train like this with like 13 boxcars, I think it's 11, but 13 boxcars and a caboose, I think that's a decent sized train for an ABBA set. I mean, you could make the train longer and it could probably still handle it, but if your cars don't really are like weighted down, your freight cars, I wouldn't. I mean, if you could pull it, maybe, or maybe it was my club layout. I'm just not 100% sure. I was kind of disappointed that day when I brought it to my club. I was like, what the heck? They couldn't pull any of those freight trains. But I guess since, those cars weighed a lot more than these 1950s, 40s boxcars, there's a difference. And I guess you could say that's error accurate, although these are model trains. You should be able to pull whatever you want. But that's that. So we'll get them started up. These are really loud. I'm not sure if the video is going to really portray that, but what the heck, we'll see what happens. So I'm going to activate both of them. Wait, power's not on. I'm going to call 2017 my secondary A unit. So that pounding sound, I think, is the air compressor. I'm not 100% sure. Now, what I don't understand is that pounding sound is different than the GG1s and my P5As. Because that sound on the P5As, once you see that review, and the GG1, which is the F4 function, which we'll get into a little bit, it actually has more bass into it, and it has a lot more, I guess, gruff into it. And if anybody has the Paragon 2 versions of these, you'll probably know what I'm talking about if you have those Paragon 3 GG1s and those P5As. These don't have it, and it's not a huge issue to me. Personally, I watched videos about this diesel, of what they sounded like, and I have to say these do sound like pretty close to it. It doesn't sound as bubbly and like muscly as well, not muscly. That's stupid. It doesn't sound like a muscle car like the real ones, but they're close. Now, because both of them are powered, it sounds like all four of them are powered. So if you want, you don't have to get two powered units, or all you need is a powered A units. And if you want to do an ABBA, get a powered B unit, and then, oh my gosh, the amount of sound would be just ridiculous. So I'm going to back the train up a bit. Uh-oh. Something is stuck. I wonder what's stuck. Let's see if I can go back again. There we go. So we're gonna back up the train so we can hear the so we can see the lights that it has as a feature. Now they don't, when it comes to a stop or when they're at stop, they don't have interior lights. Just fine. I don't have a real problem with that. Some people would like the extra detail. It's just a gimmick, really. So we're gonna have the headlight turn on. So when the headlight turns on, you see that the marker lights turn on as well. And I guess you could also see the classification lights as well too. They're not that bright, but they're on. Now, I know in real life there were like 3 different colors. I mean, probably 4, maybe 5. Red is usually for the marker lights when the train's going in reverse or going away from the position. That someone might see the red marker lights. Green is usually the forward or white. I'm not sure about yellow, probably yellow too. I'm not sure if there's blue marker lights, but all I know is that red is usually reverse. And red for those red marker lights is F7, and there you go. Now, on the video, they don't show as much saturation to be red, but in real life, they're definitely full red. And it's really cool. I really like that they added marker lights on these. They really add like another like layered to the realism for the diesel. The headlight looks nice. It's not too bright when it's in standstill, although on the video it probably does look brighter. And you got the rear headlight, and I really like the marker lights in the back like that too. That is really cool. I'm not sure if the F3s do that as well, but I think for the Baldwin Shark, they're amazing. The B units don't have them, which I don't really mind. Again, these are really... I would argue that I set up my ABBA semi-permanent, just because they're both 2016. And if you look at the back end of this train, oh, I didn't put it in. Move it slow. There we go. Headlight, marker lights. Now, usually what you can do is that you can just, as we've seen before, you can just press F7, because, alright, let me explain. Once you have the train on, usually the marker lights are by default on if you already have F7 off. But when you turn on F7, the red marker lights turn off. And when you do that, I mean, light still shines through from the headlight. And to be honest, I actually like that, because you can actually have the marker lights turn off in the front, and in the rear of the train still has the marker lights on. And when you switch directions, of course, you're going to have to go through the functions to make that one turn white and that one turn red. Now, I don't think those turn red anymore, which is fine. Again, this is the front of the train now, and that's the rear of the train. And again, I think that's cool with the marker lights. When I got these and I turned them on for the first time, I was like, wow, I really like those marker lights. They're really cool. So as we're sitting here just worrying, we're going through the functions. We already went through 1 and not 1, 0 and 7. Here we go. Well, I already know what function 1 and 2 is. So I just want to get to the page so that we get to there. Alright, we're on that page. So, function 1 is obviously the bell. Sounds nice. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but I like the bell. The diesel horn. And that's the alternative horn that I have on, which personally I prefer, because back then they had more single note horns at the time. Alright, I resetted it. So the horn that you would get out of the box would be this. Which I also like too. It's a really masculine kind of horn for a diesel like this. F3 is the coupler slack, which if we just, there you go. F4 is the compressor, there we go, the dynamic brake compressor, which they're still operating. You can barely hear them, but they're operating. You might hear some thumping sounds, and that's the dynamic brake or the compressor. And when it stops, when they come to complete stop after you're slowing them down from at a decent rate, when they come to complete stop, they'll compress again. F5's to ramp the diesel engine up, and then F6 is to ramp the diesel engine down. So I don't really like doing, because it does that automatically anyways. F7 is for ditch or Mars light. In this case, it's marker lights. So, again, I really like that you can turn on and off the marker lights. I mean, yeah, the front marker lights for them don't turn off, but that's okay, because, you know, in real life, they would probably be on during the time period. F8's mute. F9 start up and shut down. F10 is radiator cool fan. Pretty sure that might be the radiator right now. F11 is air filling. These are really cool diesels. F12 is brake set, brake release. We're not going to really touch that. F13 is grade crossing horn. Whoop. I'll be honest, you don't really need to use a grade crossing horn, which I think is personally a wasted function. I mean, you could just do that with the regular horn on your own. Got passenger announcements in F14 and F15's freight announcements, which is appropriate. F16's maintenance sounds, and F17's radio sounds, which I'll probably turn on too, because I think it's appropriate to have the radio sounds for these diesels. I mean, you can have them on in Steam too, although for diesels it's more like modernized stuff. Got radios and whatnot, which already radio's been around for a very long time, especially for, for railroading. But for diesels, it just makes more sense to have radios going on than on steam engines. I think that sounds a little bit too modern, the radio sounds. Yeah, it sounds a little bit too modern for these diesels, but it's pretty cool. F20, F18 city background sounds. F19's farm, so if you want your Baldwin Sharks to sound like a cow or whatever, go ahead. F20's industrial. F21's lumber background. I mean, if you have these diesels in those industrial areas and those spurs that have these types of businesses, you could probably have the diesel sitting there and just have it play those sounds that they're in. And not just diesels, like steam, whatnot. F22's switched to secondary horn, which I really like more. Although it's not really appropriate for, I guess, freight. Personally, I find this to be more for freight and the secondary whistle or horn to be for passenger. F23's track sounds, which I'll probably have on, although they're not moving. I wish the clickety-clack sounds for the track sounds would be dynamic with the speed of the diesels. We got auxiliary light control. Let's see, do we have auxiliary lights? Oh well, that's that's F7. I don't know why we have the same thing. I guess that's for probably if it had a Mars light or something like that. But that's okay. It's cool to have the same feature twice, I guess. F25's Longhorn. I like that. I wish you could do that with the regular horn. And then F26 is play record macro, and F27's record start stop. You can record your own sounds. And F28's brake squeal. So let's get these diesels up and running. Like I said, the clickety-clack is a little bit too fast in terms of the speed. mean, if you're up close to this, your ears would be ringing just a little bit. Not like intensely, like a big boom or something. But hearing all that sound will... That flood of sound is going to sound like real-life industrial areas, which I do like, to be honest. I'm going to turn off that rail sound. If I can remember what it was. I think it's, if I can find it. It's supposed to be the clickety-clack, but it's making all this... Yeah, it's track sounds, 23. Now these diesels are probably moving at a speed like this normally. I don't know what's making that squealy sound. It might be one of my rear A unit or B unit, so they might need some lubricant. I don't know. Something's making a squeaky sounds. But that's okay. I'm gonna take him up to probably the realistic speed. Now these diesels usually pull coal trains in Pennsylvania. Although in my railroad, I'll have them pull whatever I feel like I want them to pull. I got some hopper cars, but I need a butt ton of those to make it feel like we're gonna have a huge coal train, which I'll get eventually. Here we go. And that's why I find the grade crossing horn to be useless. Now it's interesting. I did use the A and B and the A units for a project I was using for college, and it's amazing that even though with the reputation of Paragon 3, they held up. I know a guy on the Broadway Limited Collectors Club on Facebook. There's a guy who got the Tuscan Baldwin Limited Broadway Limited. He got the Tuscan Red Baldwin Sharks, and unfortunately, I guess his decoder just crapped out. Now I believe he got it used, but I'm not 100% sure. So he's getting that with